Welcome to episode 270 of the Grip Strip podcast, the greatest day in Motorsports VI edition of the Grip Strip podcast. My name is Philip Matthew. I'm your host. And as always, I'm with my buddy, the iRacing Indy 500 champion, computer genius, gentleman, a scholar, and someone who attended the Indianapolis 500 this past weekend, along with Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals. His name is Josh Fine. What's going on, brother?
Yeah, doing great, Phil. Of course, traveled to Indianapolis to watch the Indianapolis 500 this past weekend, and it was a great experience there. Saw the Eastern Conference Finals Game 3, which pretty good vibes up until the fourth quarter there. And then, of course, can't be remiss, we have to say this as well, but I did make it to the track in time to see the Weenie 500, so the pinnacle of motorsport right there. So, it was definitely a great weekend of racing throughout. Really just a great weekend overall for Memorial Day weekend here.
Yeah, and for all the servicemen and women who paid that ultimate sacrifice for our freedom, we're grateful and thankful during this time, but in general, we are, even when it's this time of year. It was a busy weekend. You had the three big races for the last, what seems like it'll be the last time for a while. We had the Indianapolis 500, which saw one Alex Palou go and get his first career oval victory, and beating Marcus Ericsson, and David Malukas, amongst others there. Found out that Marcus Ericsson would get DQ'd along with Kyle Kirkwood, his teammate, and Callum Ilott. We'll get in everything that went on there, what this means for Alex Palou now that he's basically conquered multiple things at once with the win at Indy. We will talk about the Monaco Grand Prix, which had 2 pit stops, mandatory. Certain teams understood that, Mercedes didn't. You had Lando Norris start on pole and win. It really wasn't that dramatic. It just took forever because they were driving so slow around the track, especially some of the team games that were going on. They were about 5-6 seconds slower than, maybe even slower than that, just to hold up the field, which was pretty brutal. We can talk about how, or if that 2 pit stop mandatory strategy was worthwhile, or it was same old. Give you a rundown of the points and all that as well. In terms of the Coca-Cola 600, the first race on Prime was a really good presentation, and it was a really good race too. Granted, William Byron dominated, but they were, in the end, he wasn't the one that held up the trophy. Ross Chastain came through after starting tailback and won the 600. And then they had a deep and comprehensive pre and post race show, which is something that's very rare. Not having a commercial for the last 80 laps of the race was also nice. So we'll get into the 600. We'll also talk about William Byron getting the win in the Xfinity Series after copping a speeding penalty. And then Corey Heim dominating the trucks. Where have you heard that before? Basically every freaking race this year. The roundup, we'll talk about Cletus McFarlane going and wrecking a portion of the field, and Austin Green coming through for his first career victory. MotoGP, which saw Aprilia come through for their first win of 2025 in MotoGP, with all the drama and stuff going on with the Martinator. Shanghai Formula E also took place, and then we're gonna have the Shanghai E-Prix this coming weekend. We'll also have IMSA and Indy next, at Detroit, and then F2, F3 at Monaco last week, Catalunya this week. We'll preview the Spanish Grand Prix and make our picks. We'll also preview Detroit for IndyCar and make picks, and then the tripleheader at Nashville Super Speedway for NASCAR. Josh will let us know all things going on iRacing and gaming in the sim segment, and we'll call it a day. So yeah, the Indianapolis 500 was delayed for a little bit because of rain showers, so like light drizzle. They were able to keep the track dry, but there were certain areas of the track where there was rain. Not only Josh had other people that I know, at least one other person that I know that was at the race, so that was cool. But then when you consider 350,000 people were there, I think there's a pretty good chance you might know somebody there. But the race was delayed a bit. They had a really long pre-race show that insisted on having way too much Chris Myers and Miss Hummer, not enough Tony Stewart. But you know, they had a bunch of features. Seemed to be, and they were talking about the energy of the race and what it means, and for that it was good. The actual announcing of the race left a lot to be desired. The race itself, at least for the first 100 laps of the race, seemed to remind many, including me, of the 1992 Indy 500. Similar conditions, the way the overcast skies, cold, a lot of wrecking, a lot of issues in general. And then in the second half of the race, it kind of just opened up to pitch strategy, fuel mileage kind of deal there in the second half of the Indianapolis 500. I mean, Josh, I throw to you in terms of just the experience, getting into the track, all the things of actually being able to go there. I haven't been to Indianapolis since the mid-90s, and that was for NASCAR, so it's a bucket list thing. So what was it like to be there at in a sold-out crowd for the biggest race in the world?
Yeah, I mean, it was, I think, everything that I thought it would be like, in just the atmosphere of being there. I think, well, first of all, I mean, we can start before the race, just showing up to it. I mean, I think you're better off like walking to the race or biking there than, because I had a rental car and then I bought a parking spot, like not at the official Speedway parking because I was already sold out, but there was one that was like a little further down from one of the back lots there. So, you know, parked there. I mean, it was easy to get there, but it was just a ton of traffic and stuff. And, you know, I think if I were ever to do this again, I think I'd try to, you know, bike or walk there. But that aside, I mean, the traffic, of course, you know, I mean, it's expected for, you know, that many people to be there, but to, then after, you know, getting out of the car and going there, you know, kind of seeing all the people like on the front lawns tailgating and, the town of Speedway, Indiana, and all that stuff, and just people, you know, getting ready for the race, and then, you know, as you get to the parking lot, you know, more people tailgating and everything, and then, you know, from there, getting into the seating. So I had turn 3 there in the kind of middle section 14. So yeah, pretty decent view there. I mean, I read everything, like trying to research where to go for this, and it seemed like having a turn seat was probably the best option because you can, you know, see the short chute, the 2 turns, and then the back stretch, and then, you know, coming off of turn 2 there. So I thought that was a pretty good vantage point to have from that aspect. You know, thought about being on the front stretch for the ceremonies and seeing, you know, all that stuff and the finish and all that, but I just felt like, you know, for seeing the most amount of action where I thought maybe the winning move of the race would happen, I thought that turn 3 would be the best option there. So yeah, that was pretty good there. But you know, I think, yeah, the atmosphere and everything, you know, everybody was all excited for the race. Of course, you mentioned like the drizzle that was happening, which, yeah, I was kind of nervous because I was like, I hope the skies don't open up and it really starts raining, because then one, you know, like, I mean, I have an umbrella, but then you don't want to get wet and all that stuff and have my camera with me, so didn't want to chance that getting wet or anything like that too much, and all that. And then of course the race itself being delayed, which of course the storyline there with Larson making it to the 600, trying to make it to the 600. Of course, was nervous about that because that was one of the things I was interested in seeing, and it's it's deja vu all over again. But then all the ceremonies going through it. They had the back home again in Indiana. That was the one I was really excited for, and just feeling the emotion throughout that song. It was exactly what I expected it to be, and it was cool to hear it in person after hearing it on TV and all that. I think what else, playing taps, hearing them play taps. I mean, that was really, really nice to hear and all that. But yeah, just overall, just really cool to be a part of all the festivities in person and stuff. And then of course I mentioned 350,000 people, and it was a sold out event, of course, which I mean it was absolutely true because initially when I got there early enough to get to my seat, and I found my seat, and then not everybody beside me had come up to their seat, and then there was one guy next to me who I think he was sitting in the wrong section, but somebody else was sitting in where he thought he was supposed to be, so he kind of just said, okay, I'll just sit here. And then as other people started filling the seats, there was one couple that came up and said, we've had these seats for 4 years, because I had to kind of scoot over to make room for other people. And so I was, after originally sitting in my seat, I was not sitting in my seat anymore just to move over to make room for people next to me. And then, I was, not intentionally, but just happened to be on the label of, I had seat 14, and then, seat 15 was supposed to be somebody else or whatever, and then they come up and they're we've had these seats for the last 4 years, and we've been coming here since the 80s and stuff. And I said, well, I'm trying not to sit in your seat, but there's other people here that are now sitting here, and it's hard to move. And then we had to figure out, and we realized that one of the guys had the wrong ticket, or not the wrong ticket, but the wrong seat, and so he had to scoot over to the next section. So once we got that cleared up and everything, it was just, that guy was clearly in the wrong seat. But once we got that cleared up, it was fine. But of course, there was not really a lot of, going to a NASCAR race, there's, there's still plenty of room. The seats, Daytona seats, are pretty wide, and you can be comfortable and stuff. But, here, you're kind of scrunched in a little bit. So, that was only, I guess, complaint I had, is just when it's sold out like that and it is a packed house, you do kind of get a little scrunched in, I guess. But I mean, it's not a big complaint. It's just I wish I had a little bit more room, but that's okay. So but yeah, I mean, I think the other thing is that they had the Black Hawk helicopters, which I don't think they've ever did that before, the Blackhawks to fly with the field. So I thought that was pretty unique, just seeing those helicopters up close, celebrating the U.S. Army's 250th birthday there. So that was pretty cool to see them fly up close like that, and everything. And got a couple of good pictures of that. So hopefully I'll get those out later in the week and everything. But yeah, that was pretty nice. And then just the atmosphere and everything. I mean, it's exactly what you expect going to the Indianapolis 500. So I mean, like I said, really, before we get into the racing stuff, I'm really glad I was able to take the chance to go and everything, and see that, and just the whole weekend of being there, the Legends Day, Carb Day, being there for that. That was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, and it's something that many racing fans like me have wanted to experience. So hearing that and hearing the whole plan and what you had to do, but it came off all right, is a good thing. So it makes me less worried about possibly going and doing that in the future, hopefully. In terms of the race itself, I described what it was. There was, just to start off, we'll get to Alex Palou, of course, and his move, which was one of the more sneaky, interesting winning moves in Indy 500 history, honestly. Basically pwned Marcus Ericsson, and then Marcus Ericsson had no response. He couldn't get back around him. And come to find out, if he had actually won the race and then got DQ'd, it would have been really bad. So, at least I guess now Kevin Blanche, because of after getting nailed with the whole Penske thing, I guess now he's trying to actually run a tight ship in the tech booth. So we'll see what happens as we go along here in future races. But I mean, you had Scott McLaughlin pull a Roberto Guerrero and crash on the pace laps, which was insane. They missed. I mean, Fox missed plenty of stuff, but that was one of the things they missed. They initially missed Marco's wreck that he had a few laps into the race once they actually did get going. I forget who it was that hit him. I think it might have been Harvey. It might have been the two Dreyer and Reinbold guys.
But it was Armstrong, wasn't it?
Or maybe Armstrong. They were all in that general vicinity. Either way, so then those two guys were gone very early in the race, 4 laps into the race, and then you had and there was other people, and of course Robert Schwartzman starting on pole, Prema getting their first pole in IndyCar, and at least early on Schwartzman was just staying up there, maintaining, not the fastest guy out there. Takuma Sato had kind of taken off early, and early signs it seemed like there was a possibility that Taku could possibly go and get number 3, the way he was racing early on in the 500. But as the day went on, issues took place because I'm gonna get that breakdown instead, and then you'll have the leader summary. Yeah, Takuma Sato actually led the most laps in the race too, for 51, and then wow, that's interesting there. So yeah, but then he had an issue on pit road, made a joke about asking ChatGPT for how he could improve his pit entry so that he doesn't slide through the pit box. And it also amazes me that Takuma Sato was as fast as he was, and Graham Rahal seems to show up to Indy every single year and have one of the biggest pieces of dog crap on the racetrack every single year. And they're in the same team. Devlin DeFrancesco, who can't drive a hot nail through snow, was leading the Indianapolis 500. You had Louis Foster, who had a decent piece. Neither of them were going to win anything, but like both of those cars were functional. And then you had Graham Rahal, who was like 3 miles an hour off the pace, at least. It makes no sense to me how that's possible, other than Graham's driving style, aero. They just have bad engineering on his car specifically. But I think at the end of the day, I think we're getting to a point with Graham Rahal that there's only certain racetracks where he's kind of worthwhile at, and it would be better off for him to go and actually run the team than be a driver. Marco had to give it up, and it was a good idea because, frankly, Marco sucked. At least Graham Rahal has won more races over the years. It's just that he hasn't won in a long time. But from there, you had Pato O'Ward was up there. You had the Ed Carpenter Racing guys, Alexander Rossi and Christian Rasmussen were up there battling. And Rasmussen was on an alternative strategy where, depending on how things had landed, he might have been able to be in a position to win the race. I mean, Alex Rossi had a great car too, and then he had issues, which was a shame because he's always good at Indy, and then ECR having an opportunity there with 2 of their cars. It's not that it's out of the realm. They usually, Ed Carpenter puts everything out of the in the kitchen sink into trying to do well at Indy. So he had a good piece. They both had good cars, and in the end, Rossi wasn't able to come through because of mechanical issues. Rasmussen was able to be within the lead pack there, so one of his better finishes of his IndyCar career. I mean, there's a lot of different angles we can go at this. There's only 12 cars on the lead lap, so it shows how competitive and tough the race was. Joseph Newgarden, two-time defending Indy 500 champ, started on the back row and was in the top 6 when he had his mechanical issues himself. So I started to have that, sinking feeling, and I'm like, oh, this motherfucker is going to win 3 years in a row. I really started to think that, and then he got that penalty. He got that, or not penalty, but then he had to come back into the pits, and that was the end of that for him. I mean, you had Scott Dixon's brakes were on fire before the start of the race, and they eventually had to go and pit to repair the left rear brake. Lost 3 laps, wasn't able. I think he lost 4 laps, made up one of them. In the end, was buried, and you wonder if he was actually on the lead lap, what he could have done. I mean, Ryan Hunter-Reay is another one, the 2014 Indianapolis 500 champ, in a one-off with Dreyer and Reinbold. They were on the alternative strategy with Christian Rasmussen, and he was leading the race when he pitted at lap, what is it? I guess 171, and to go and have a chance to win a second Indianapolis 500, it would have been one of the longest gaps between first and second wins, and then run out of fuel to the point where he couldn't get the car going again. Is just really brutal for Captain America. It would have been big to see that happen if he could have came through and won. So, I mean, there was a lot of storylines, a lot of people who had unfortunate situations. Larson, of course, trying to run the double, wrecked just before halfway, coming off of a restart. Took Stingray Robb and Kiffin Simpson with him in the process. Schwartzman crashed on pit road and then damaged his suspension because of a brake issue, not having the brakes, I guess, set there. Rinus VeeKay was in the top 10 after starting on the back row, which tells you how good he is at Indianapolis, that he was able to maneuver all the way up there and put himself in a position, but then he crashed coming into pit road. So, I mean, there was so much going on. I mean, it was really hard to keep up with everything through the first, 100 laps of the race. And then in the second half of the race, it became pretty, I would say, tame, manageable. Excuse me. And so that was, and then when you had to figure out who was on what fuel strategy, most of the people were on what they were calling the A strategy, but Rasmussen, Ryan Hunter-Reay, and at least one other car.
Rossi was part of that strategy.
Rossi, and then I don't know. I feel I feel like Elio was a part of it, but
yeah, he was.
Yeah, so I mean, Elio at age 50, trying to be the oldest winner of the Indianapolis 500, finished in the top 10. So, who says that age is just a number when it comes to Elio? Because he stays in great shape, and Meyer Shank with their Ganassi connection had great cars, at least 2 of them. And Rosenquist was up there in the Creed machine all month. And then you had Elio in the race do what he usually does. And Marcus Armstrong struggled, but, he finished. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways to go about this. I mean, the big names, a lot of the big names there was a mixed bag for big names. You had one-off drivers having a chance in Sato and Castroneves and Ryan Hunter-Reay. you had guys that usually aren't in the mix, like Ferrucci and Rasmussen and Malukas to a point, I guess. Connor being up there, and the two Rahal guys. I mean, those are those are all a lot of people that aren't usually up there. And I mean, I'll let you go because we have to separately talk about Alex Palou, honestly, after what he did. But I mean, it was action. There was a lot of action. A lot went on. It was quite dramatic for an Indy 500 compared to recent years.
I mean, there was definitely a lot of action there. I mean, in terms of fighting for the lead, I mean, there wasn't really like a lot of passing up front for the lead, but at the same time, there was still a lot of strategy going on, a lot of, drags going on, like you said. And of course, yeah, Scott McLaughlin, of course, to start off the race with his deal, of course, Alex Rossi on pit road, catching on fire, which I'm surprised that they didn't throw a yellow for that. Because normally I think they throw, I feel like, you see that, like, if that were to happen in NASCAR, they would have, thrown a yellow for, potentially unsafe situation on pit road there. And, I feel like IndyCar has done that before, but for some reason I guess they contained the fire there pretty quickly. But, that was pretty strange seeing that, seeing other strange things happening, like VK losing it on pit road there. There's a lot of different strategies. It was interesting following the race there from the vantage point at the track. I think Rossi had good pace there because he was leading that alternate strategy because he had only pitted one time on lap 44, or I think under green, and he had pitted with Ed Carpenter there and Christian Rasmussen. So they had a different strategy going on that I think could have netted them the lead potentially. But you had Ryan Hunter-Reay, I think, who I think he was going to be in the catbird seat, so he ended up leading the most laps, or the second most laps in this race. Takuma had a interesting race, running up front. He had a lot of speed, but then, of course, what doomed him was overshooting his pit by, just barely there. So, yeah, that definitely cost him a shot, I think, at being up front. But of course, yeah, Ryan Hunter-Reay just ran out of gas on pit road and ran it dry, and then that caused his issue with refueling and then losing fuel pressure there. So that took him out of the race there. So that was, I think if that had not happened, we might be talking about Ryan Hunter-Reay winning the race here, and which would be interesting because he's not a full-time driver anymore, and it's for definitely a smaller team, and Dry Reinbold Cuskick Motorsports there. So which is interesting actually, because on the day before, he was at the Chevy fan stage, and I managed to get an autograph from Ryan Hunter-Reay on my Chevy shirt that I got for a couple years ago at the NASCAR races. So I just have Chevy drivers whenever they go try to autograph it. But anyways, like, that would have been cool to have a autograph from the winner of the Indianapolis 500, and by the way, Florida man too. So that would have been interesting there. So would have been cool to see that. But and I was kind of hoping for that. I was like, Ryan Hunter-Reay, like, potentially winning, that would have been cool there. But then that happened, and then of course, at the end, Palou was up front, or in contention, and then you see him. I saw him pass Malukas on the backstretch, and it's like, oh, it's going to happen, and then he sneaks around and passes, passing Marcus Ericsson there. So that was interesting to see. And then of course the lap cars, like you said, just kind of hanging around there, or people on the tail end of the lead lap who are on their own strategy to kind of. I guess I don't want to say affecting the race, but they're allowed to run their own race like that. But it definitely, I think it kind of affected the battle for the lead, because definitely allowed Palou to run in the draft there, and basically counter any move that was going to happen from Marcus Ericsson, and the same thing for Maluka. So with all the dirty air, it would just make it harder for anybody further back to try to make a move there. So that was definitely a factor there with the lappers. But again, I mean, they don't have any right to, or they have every right to be able to run where they are and not do anything. So I mean, it was interesting to kind of see that play out, but at the same time, I think the hybrid. I think that was definitely a big storyline that went into this race, and I think one of the things that they talked about is how it was going to handle or change the handling with the added weight. And I think it definitely had a factor there because it did seem like a race where it was harder to overtake. The further back in the field you were, like for example, like Newgarden was I think one of the only people that were able to really do any overtakes in the pack. Other people not as much. So it was definitely a challenge to see that, and you could kind of see it like up front. There wasn't really a whole lot of moves that really happened, because I feel like in past Indy 500s, you could easily see like guys like Connor Daly just pull out and make a pass for the lead, which he did, by the way, but it wasn't as dramatic as it seemed like in years past, and you really had to kind of think your way or maneuver your way up to the lead. It wasn't as kind of an easy thing as it was like last year or the year before or the past couple of years. So in my opinion, it was gonna seem it seemed like it was gonna be similar to the 2018 Indy 500, but because that one wasn't really all that exciting either. But I did think that this race, like even with the challenges that the hybrid presented, I still felt like you saw good racing throughout the day, and it wasn't a complete bore fest like 2018, but it was definitely going to be harder to pass than in previous years. So we'll see how that goes. And I thought with the hybrid and everything, like being able to deploy the hybrid at the right time, I wondered if that was going to be a factor, but I have to go back and watch the finish again to really see, because you don't really know, I guess from the fan view, you don't really know who's using the hybrid or not. So that's definitely something to go back and look at. But from my vantage point, of course, seeing all the different drivers try to compete, fans were excited when Connor Daly took the lead. They were excited when Pato O'Ward made a move to get up front and potentially challenge for the win there. It was, I think same thing for Pelot. I think people were happy that he won overall, or at least happy for him. I'll say I don't know if they're happy that he is going on this tear, but they're happy for him winning the race, I guess. And all that. And I think one other thing, with the battle for the lead there at the end with him versus Ericsson, of course, getting disqualified there, but it did seem like Ericsson would kind of close in like down the back stretch, like in turn 1 and 2, and get a run when you could see him on the TV and then going on the back stretch. But then it just looked like in turn 3 and 4, like he couldn't close enough there, like he would lose time going through turn 4 there and lose any opportunity to try to make an overtake going into turn 1, or continue that momentum to the next set of corners. So it was interesting to kind of see how that played out, and it just never seemed like Ericsson would have an opportunity where he could try to continue to make up momentum and try to get around Pelot. So overall, I thought it was still an exciting race to watch and all that, but it was definitely one of the weird 500s that we've seen. But because you had stretches of long green flag racing, and then you also had the temperature was definitely very chilly throughout the day, and then of course some of the weirder yellows, like McLaughlin, of course, wrecking like 1992, and then I mean, yeah, I think it was like 1992 overall, just the weather and all that stuff, and then the weird cautions that we saw, in the first half of the race there. So yeah, I mean, it was definitely exciting race to watch, and I think it's good for the sport, and hopefully with the momentum that they have from this, at least ratings wise, continue to draw interest into the series.
Yeah, I mean, highest rated Indy 500 since Scott Dixon's win in 2008, or the most amount of viewers. There was, I mean, having to keep up with that. I mean, you had the storylines of the veterans that were there, and then in the grand scheme, you're talking about a guy in Alex Palou who is now, is got, GOAT. He's doing GOAT things. He gets the win, makes an amazing maneuver right at the end of the front straightaway. Very ballsy. Utilizes that draft and the slingshotting by the two Rahal teammates to his advantage and manages the gap. The point you brought up, Josh, about the hybrid, I think it affected things a little bit. I also figure that temperature really affected things, because I think when the low downforce package that they have with this car combined with cold temperatures is not a good recipe for racing, in terms of actually being able to do a lot of overtaking, a lot of movement. It didn't seem like that second line ever really came in, a higher line. So that usually comes in when it's hotter. And so maybe if it was warmer, if it was a hotter ambient, hotter track temp, you might have had a little bit more action in the sense of like passing. But in the grand scheme of things, Alex Palou made a pass on Marcus Ericsson in turn one, shot a gap that really wasn't there, and went out and won his first career oval race, and it was the biggest race. I mean, it's insane. He's won 5 of the first 6 races. He's the first one since Mr. AJ in 1979, when he won 5 of the first 6 races. I think of him and I look at what he does and I'm like, he's basically Scott Dixon 2.0. And it's insane how similar he is to Scott Dixon. The way that he handles radio messages, the way that he is told what number he has to hit, just the machine-like precision by which Alex Palou drives, and then he looks like he's 14 years old. I mean, that's just insane too. So his little baby daughter is probably never gonna age, and that was the best. I think the most wholesome picture was Alex Palou's daughter with his wife there on the bricks and her big smile. And he always wants to grab her and have her participate in these victory lane celebrations, because I mean, I guess for Palou to have his daughter involved, and who knows, maybe one day it goes back to that joke they make in the Fox promotion commercials about how she didn't like Joseph Newgarden's book. That's funny, but I'm sure she probably smiles at him. But I can't remember somebody being this dominant. There's been years or whatever, people are just really, really good. Of course, Dario, from like 2007 through I think 2012 was pretty solid. It makes a lot of sense because he's buddies with Jimmy, so they kind of had similar vibes, minus that one year he spent in NASCAR. You had Dixon, who's just timeless, ageless wonder, but now he's watching his teammate who's much younger than him, beat him on a regular basis. And whatever, Fox is trying to do everything to promote the brand and promote the series, or trying to clean up the kind of the inspection situation. You got all these different things going on, but there's one thing that's consistent and has been consistent for the better part of the last 4 years, and that's Alex Palou being an absolute animal. And it makes no sense to me how he has not gotten one call, one thought for a test, nothing in Formula One. It's a massive oversight on the part of all these teams. I want to say they have the best drivers, but then Lance Stroll's employed. You have Liam Lawson, who's basically falling apart. You have some other guys that are out there and are just taking up seats. Franco Crashapinto, like, you're telling me that Alex Palou can't do better than that. In the end, though, I'm glad because we get to have him here and we get to see his greatness continue and form what is going to be a Hall of Fame career. It already is in a lot of ways. So he's got over 100 something point lead in the points. He's got 3 races on 5th already. So, I mean, like, they've only run 6 races and there's 17 rounds. I mean, like you mentioned it earlier with Dixon offering to send Palou, his wife and family, on vacation for 5 weeks, and he still probably would have the points lead after that anyway. This is unbelievable, and
it is.
There's it in this day and age to have that level of domination is and with the way that you think about the parity, for them to be as good as they are and as efficient as they have been, is, you just have to take your hat off to them. And like Pedro Martinez said, Alex Palou is everyone's daddy, because that's what he has been for the last 2-3 years, and it ain't stopping anytime soon. So, yeah, I mean, we'll get into the results. We talked about it for better part of 40 minutes. So, Alex Palou, the winner of the Indianapolis 500, over David Malukas, Pato O'Ward, Felix Rosenquist, Root Beer Floathead rounds out the top 5. Then 2 Christians, Rasmussen and Lundgaard, 6th and 7th. Connor Daly, in a pool of his own piss, was 8th. Takuma Sato, 9th, and Elio Castro Neves was 10th. Di Francesco and Foster round out the cars on the lead lap. Other guys there, Herta was 14th. Will Power was 16th. Scott Dixon, I mentioned, he was 3 laps down in 20th. The mechanicals for Hunter Ray and Newgarden, 21st and 22nd. Larson, 24th. Bobby Schwartzman, 26th. VK, 27th. Rossi, 28th. McLaughlin, 30th. After the 3 disqualifications. Those 3 cars were actually on the lead lap too, so there would have been 15 cars on the lead lap. Okay. But yeah, we'll move into the standings for the championship. Of course, Bobby Schwartzman won Indy 500 Rookie of the Year as well. So Alex Palou has a 112-point lead, 6 starts, 5 wins, 6 top 5s, 2 poles. Over in Pato O'Ward, in contrast, has 3 top 5s and 4 top 10s with 1 pole. Kirkwood 5th in points, the only other winner so far this year. Lundgaard 3rd, Hurleyquist 4th. Dixon is in 6th. McLaughlin, Power, Herta. I mean, if you take from Pato O'Ward back to Will Power, it's like 52 points. So that would actually be a really intriguing battle. Those drivers all bunched together. Problem is Alex Palou's on a different planet right now. Arenas VK fell out of the top 10 in points with his DNF. Malukas jumped him there. I mean, it's very tight. 17 and then 25 to Rasmussen. So, yeah, they'll be racing at Detroit this coming weekend. So, definitely opportunities for plenty of cautions and damage. So, at a track that's very rough. We'll move on to the Monaco Grand Prix, which saw not a whole heck of a lot go down because, of course, it's not very easy to overtake. It's basically impossible to overtake. They had to do 2 pit stops. I think the way that they had it wasn't the ideal strat. I think if you had made them run at least 2 flying laps on each compound, I mean, who knows, some of them would have probably pushed that, or some of them would have figured out a way, but in the grand, after everything, Lando Norris ended up winning over Monaco's Charles Leclerc. Oscar Piastri was third. Fish Lips led up to a couple of laps to go. He took the lead and was staying out, and then pitted for fourth, and Lewis Hamilton was the last car on the lead lap. Isaac Hadjar, Esteban Ocon, Liam Lawson, Alex Albon, Carlos Sainz rounded out your top 10. From Albon back were at least 2 laps down. Kimi Antonelli was 3, because Mercedes figured out a way to not pit their cars for like 60-something laps. And you heard different varying stories as to why. Some had said that they had forgotten that it was a 2 pit stop mandatory. Others, it's like they had an alternative strategy and they thought that by pitting later they could get away with that. But the way that the team play went on, they were never going to be able to make the gaps that they needed for that to work. There's other reasons, but it was one of the worst performances by Mercedes in general in a long, long time. Alpines, you had Gasly crash into the back of Yuki Tsunoda. Crash at Pinto didn't crash this past weekend, which was surprising. You had, go through all that right there. Yeah, so you had the team play between Toro Rosso, Williams as well. Those 2 teams utilized that to their advantage to get double points for both. Norris, though, won the race on Saturday, Josh, with his pole run, and went out there on Sunday and held on and was able to manage the gap between him, Leclerc, Fish Lips, and Piastri, and gain points in the Drivers' Championship, which at the end of the day, we already know they're going to win the Constructors based on how good both of them are running. But, the Drivers' Championship's to be determined, and it's a 3-horse race for that. But Lando Norris, after a lean spell, looks like he has been rousted out of slumber and put himself right back in the mix.
Yeah, absolutely. Lando, of course, I mean, as much attention that we've been giving to Piastri this season, thinking that he would just take off and win this championship this year, it's not quite a foregone conclusion there. And Lando Norris, of course, basically winning the race on Saturday. I mean, let's be real, that's winning in qualifying, and we kind of know that that's the case here at Monaco. But won the race here on Sunday, and puts him back in the conversation of could he contend for the title. So it's definitely possible with only a 3-point lead between him and Piastri, and think if they continue to beat his teammate, he could possibly be the point leader here pretty soon. But I mean, overall, you talk about the two pit stop strategy and all that stuff. And I mean, I guess it made things interesting from the aspect of could something else happen, but it overall didn't really change anything because Max Verstappen, of course, had his pit strategy where they attempted to hold him out as long as possible and hope for a yellow or a red flag where they could basically have a free pit stop and not be able to give up the lead to do that. But then that never happened, and then it ended up having to pit him with 2 laps to go and hand the race back to Lando Norris there. So, this course race, wasn't very, much of anything. I mean, it's like you said, it's basically a ceremonial race there to, hold the Monaco Grand Prix, just to do it and all that. But, otherwise, it was definitely, I think, definitely hard to pass for, I mean, obviously everybody. And I think, a lot of drivers, I think they probably weren't too happy about the way that it's kind of become with Monaco, and you can't really do anything once you're there. But yeah, I mean, of course, with Lando winning, it definitely opens the door for him getting back in the championship here. But we'll have to see as we go back to other circuits throughout the rest of the season, because I think definitely the Monaco Grand Prix, winning the pole there and then winning the race, gives him a huge opportunity. But he'll have to continue that on other tracks where there are more opportunities for overtaking, and ones where you'll have to actually be able to pass people. So we'll see if he can battle it out with his teammate and be able to be better than him, which we haven't really, other than this race, we haven't really seen that too much so far this year. But yeah, it's definitely, I mean, the two-stop strategy, I guess, kind of made things interesting, but at the end of the day, we end up getting the same result as always at Monaco.
Yeah, and even with the changes that are coming to the cars, they're still wider and they're going to be long. They're not going to be as long, but trying to overtake, even with if there's any power unit kind of effects. It is a ceremonial race, like you said, Josh. It's better for Formula E to race there because you can actually overtake in Formula E. The qualifying session is what the whole weekend's about, because if you can qualify well without any mistakes on pit road, you can go and put yourself in a position to win or do well, and that's what the guys that were up front did. They were going slow enough to where there was only 5 cars on the lead lap, which is pretty crazy. But hey, that's the way that the strategy handled. That's how the strategy was managed. So to each his own, I guess. The points heading into Spain, Josh mentioned it, Piastri 3-point lead over Norris. What is it, 25 points on Fish Lips. And then there's a huge gap there, 62 points to George Russell, 82 points to Leclerc. Leclerc is 16 points ahead of Lewis. Kimi Antonelli and Albon are actually pretty close together. Ocon, Hadjar moves up to 10th place in points. He's only 3 points ahead of Carlos Sainz. Everybody outs for full-time drivers, people that have been here since the start of the season. Alonso and Bortoleto are the only ones that have not scored points. And there's a couple guys that have either been out or moved on. In terms of teams, McLaren is 53, 153 plus 20, 173, 172, 172 points out of Mercedes. Mercedes, Red Bull, and Ferrari are all separated by 5. So that's going to be a very interesting battle moving into been deeper into the season for who's going to finish second in the constructors. In terms of fifth, it's pretty solid for Williams. I think there's discussion regarding sixth based on where the points are at. They're only 12 points ahead. Haas is of Aston Martin. And in between is Toro Rosso there. So we will see what happens. So we'll get to the Coca-Cola 600. I mentioned the race and how it was. You had 34 lead changes amongst 11 drivers. Larson flew back and was in a position possibly to make something happen, but it didn't work out. He had That's crazy. Reddick and John Hunter got buried after running up front early in the race, along with Keebler Gibbs. Denny Hamlin had a fueling issue that left him underfueled, and he had to go and take his vehicle out there. And then, the story was William Byron leading 283 of the races, 400 laps. But when it came down to it in the end, it was Ross Chastain sitting there doing the watermelon smash in front of the flag stand and the fans after doing a Polish victory lap. He had one of the fastest cars during practice and hit the fence with that car, and then they repaired it, brought it back, and it ran great to the point where he was able to make moves where other people weren't able to. Ross Chastain, your winner over William Byron, Chase Briscoe, AJ Allmendinger, Brad Keselowski, your top 5. William Clyde Elliott the second, Michael McDowell, Christopher Bell, Ryan Preece, Noah Gragson, your top 10. Shout out to the likes of Richard, Eric Jones, 11th, 13th. Shane Van Gisbergen in one of his better oval races in 14th. So there's that. And he had Christopher Buescher was up front early in the race, but then struggled later. Mentioned Reddick and John Hunter. They were up there, but when it counted, they weren't able to be. He had issues for the likes of Cindric, Krause, and so going through, Bubba had a wreck. Carson Osevar wrecked while in a position to possibly win his first career race. Larson gets wrecked in a multi-car incident between lap 247. It was Larson, Haley, Suarez, Briscoe, and Blaney. There's that. Zane Smith at a wreck. Jimmy Johnson crashed early in the race in his 700th start of his Hall of Fame career. So Chastain went out there when it mattered and took away that victory that it seemed like was a total conclusion. So credit to the Watermelon Man on another. But Josh, let us know what you thought about Ross Chastain's performance in the 600.
Yeah, Ross Chastain, which I think it's actually pretty incredible that Ross Chastain won this race, because he had started last in this race and dead last, not just because he went to the back because of an issue post qualifying or had a penalty or something like that. He legitimately qualified last and came through the field and won this race. So for Trackhouse, they have not had a lot of speed this year, but he's basically been carrying the farm for Trackhouse here this year and outperforming both of his teammates throughout the season. And he's been on a run the last couple of weeks, performing well and getting top 10 finishes and all that. So he was able to run down William Byron there at the end, and then passed him there, made a kind of a slide job move in turn 1 and 2 there, and was just able to just barely able to slide up in front of William Byron there, and William Byron kind of got arrow blocked into the wall, I guess, there, and then just arrow block the rest of the way going into the final lap there. So Chastain, of course, now secures his playoff spot. After kind of an off year last year with Trackhouse and just not being as competitive last year, but this year with the way he's running now, he's 8th in points, and has definitely been on a roll this year. So they've had several good runs since the midpoint of this year. So so far, so he could be a potential. Well, he did win a race, but not until Kansas and in the playoffs. But of course, for Chastain, it's going to be interesting to see how he runs the rest of the way this year. We'll see if he can be a real playoff contender here. But definitely carrying the farm for the rest of his team right now. Although SVG had career best finish here on an oval, or at least on a mile and a half running with pace, because they've not been great this year, being 35th in points right now. And then his teammate Daniel Suarez, I think he was in contention until him and Chase Briscoe got into it and took out Larson there. So they've definitely improved for this. So we'll see how Chastain does. But of course, William Byron, on the other hand, dominating race throughout, had to battle with Denny Hamlin throughout much of the second half of the race there, and then with William Byron, or with Ross Chastain there. So of course, that's pretty dominating otherwise to lead that many laps, but then it all kind of goes away in the last couple of laps there, which I think he was definitely affected by lap traffic there. Logano affected him, I think, there at the very end. Almost avoided. I mean, he did avoid, but almost lost it all there with Tyler Reddick, who got loose and then pounded the wall, and which surprisingly that wasn't a caution, which normally NASCAR seems like they throw cautions for that, because I mean he did hit the wall pretty hard and everything that looked like that could have been a caution, but it wasn't. So kind of interesting there to see that play out like that. But normally you'd expect, especially with the way that things have been going for Hendrick cars when they dominate this year. We've seen it with Larson and some of his victories where just flat out spanked the field and all that. Kansas, Bristol this year. So you would have expected Byron just to continue to lead and finish out the race, but Chastain was able to kind of sneak up there the last quarter of the race and get the win there. So I mean, obviously, I missed it since I was at the basketball game, but I did tune into some of it there, during halftime and while waiting in the car for the Indy 5 or after the Indy 500. So it was, I mean, the broadcast, what I was able to see seemed interesting, and definitely it seems like they're using a shell of the NBC production crew, but whatever twists Prime's able to do, they definitely made it seem like a very professional broadcast, and I think it seems like everybody liked it. I guess the only negative is if you don't have Prime, then I guess you're not gonna be able to watch the race, or you have to find some so-called illegal stream to be able to find or to do that. But it seemed like they did a really good job, and I mean it's to be expected. I mean they've been putting on pretty good NFL broadcasts the last couple of years, and all that stuff. So glad that they're in the sport, and glad Dale Jr.'s back in the broadcast booth of the course, and it's interesting. I saw a very interesting statistic here with Dale Jr. Last time he was in the broadcast booth, Ross Chastain won. Returned to the broadcast booth, Ross Chastain won. So an interesting stat there. But yeah, it was a pretty interesting 600. Maybe not quite as dramatic as the 600 that I think got everybody really interested in next gen racing at Charlotte from 2022, but definitely with the way that things played out, because it seemed like Byron was going to dominate, but the last quarter of the race, Denny Hamlin was in contention there, and then Chastain stole the win from him there. So yeah, it was still a fairly interesting race.
Yeah, the whole point of, like you brought up about Reddick hitting the fence and them not calling a yellow, it's the usual Hendrick Motorsports thing where they're leading the race. They don't like throwing yellows when Hendrick cars are leading. They don't mind with any other team. But in the end, he lost the handle of his car. And it was interesting to me. They interviewed him on pit road. Then they went and did a longer form interview at the desk with him, which I guess you have to give him credit for being willing to go and get grilled like that after giving away the 600. But Chastain went out there and won it. I mean, he wrecked his primary. They had to go to a backup car. They were, or I forget what, or they had to rebuild whatever car they had to rebuild and put a wrap on. All these things they had to very little rest. And Trackhouse went out there and did the job. And Chastain proving once again why Justin Marks puts so much into him and sees him as a franchise driver, and he's an underdog, even though he's at the point now where he's won 6 races in his career, and he's been able to win in all 3 major series. He has that everyman kind of feel because he comes from a family of watermelon farmers and the whole thing, and he has a sponsor that definitely is consumed by a lot of the people that are at the racetrack. It's funny you brought up 22 as well, because that was when Briscoe had a chance to beat Larson and wrecked himself, and then somehow or another still finished in the top 5. Briscoe ends up starting on pole, but then gets a penalty on pit road for a loose wheel or unattended tire or whatever. So then he got sent to the back and struggled to get back up there. But by the end of the race, he had one of the faster vehicles and was able to get himself back up to 3rd. Solid day. Came out and said that if he had been able to, if they were able to actually go out and put a whole race together, I think they would be in play to win a race. And I mean, the way that Gibbs has run this year, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. So you have 2 of the guys that have won a race already. So wow, that's a huge foul right there. Jesus. That's just out of control. Ross Chastain, the winner over Byron, who won the first 3 stages of the race. Briscoe, AJ Allmendinger started 5th, finished 4th. Brad Keselowski, a former winner of this race, started 35th and finished 5th. William Clyde Elliott, the 2nd. McDowell, Bell, the defending race winner. Priest from 28th to 9th, and then Noah Gagson Injured was 11th, Josh Berry 12th, mentioned Van Gisbergen. There were 17 cars on the lead lap. So, you had some of the guys that, while the 24 was dominant, you had the 48 and the 5 have issues there. But, I'm trying to 5. Yeah, trying to figure that out. But and you had some guys that were up there. The broadcast was really good. I enjoyed it. It was very organic. Alexander with Earnhardt and Letarte was a good combo. The pit road people were strong. I mean, granted, you're using NBC people and Kim Kuhn and Marty Snyder. Trevor Bayne is got great energy and of course has knowledge too. So he's good on pit road. You have Edwards with all his enthusiasm. He seems like he's John Cena or whatever when he was a face. Then you have Corey LaJoie, who's just there kind of shooting from the hip. It all seemed to work very well. Danielle Trotta, I don't mind ever looking at her, but she's a true professional. So I mean, it was a really good broadcast. They gave a proper pre and post race. You had multiple people interviewed. It was just very comprehensive, and it's something that kind of makes people like me as fans kind of, on one hand very excited for what's to come, but makes me feel bad because we don't have the opportunity to see them cover races like the Daytona 500, where that kind of broadcast, that kind of effort would be really big, even though the Daytona 500 has become basically a wreck fest. But, that's something that we have to look into there. So the points heading into the race at Nashville right now, Larson and Bell have 3 wins apiece. Larson leads is second in points. Hamlin has 2 wins. Byron is 29 points ahead of Larson. Chastain moves himself up to 5th over Logano, Cindric, and Berry. So there's 8 cars that would cross into the playoff as of now. William Clyde Elliott II is the best driver points-wise without a win. Reddick 10th. Blaney, Bowman, Briscoe, Bubba Wallace, and then Stenhouse and Preece round out your 16. AJ Allmendinger's minus 13, Gobblish minus 14, McDowell minus 21, Nemechek minus 23. On the Xfinity side, you had the Bet MGM 300, which saw Byron win both stages there. So out of a total of 6 stages or 7 stages, he won 6 of them. So pretty crazy. Allgaier led the most laps, though. It was basically him, Byron, and Taylor Gray, who started on pole. Those are the 3 that really dominated the race. Byron over Connor Zilich, then Nick Sanchez, Allgaier, Dean Thompson, Josh Williams, Austin Hill, Ryan Ellis with the top 10. He was very emotional after that. Christian Eckes, Sheldon Creed. So it's there's that. You had one-off guys like Bald Spot Dillon finished 13th. Chase Briscoe was 23rd, a lap down. I mean, what were your takeaways, Josh, on William Byron's domination at Charlotte?
Yeah, I mean, I think with Byron continuing, which it's interesting because he dominated that race, but at the same time he had an early penalty, which took him initially out of contention, but he was able to make it back. I mean, win or not win, but win, but dominate that race. And another dominating day for Justin Allgaier as well, but failing to come through with the win there and all that. But not surprising that William Byron won, of course, in a Hendrick car and almost a sweep too, because he won or could have won the 600 on Sunday there, but also Connor Zilic running second there, which that was a pretty good result there for him. Not that he's struggling or anything, but continuing to, as a rookie, continuing to improve there on the ovals and getting better on that end. So Nick Sanchez, a pretty good run for him. I think that was really good for him to go out and finish top three there. Dean Thompson, that's a huge result for him, finishing top five. And a lot of guys here that really finished that you don't normally see in the top 10, like Josh Williams running up top 10 finish there. Ryan Ellis, I mean, that's a big result there for him. He's been one of those guys in the truck series that has been grinding it out for years, and in and out of rides, and now Xfinity Series here with a team that is definitely not a team that contends for top tens that often, going out and getting a 8th place finish there, and saw the emotional interview that he had after that. So of course, that was definitely important for him, and definitely hopefully they'll get some sponsorship there and continue to improve in there. And then I think the other thing probably bring up here is Sammy Smith got DQ'd and everything. I think he was en route to top 10 finish or something, and then they ended up getting another DQ, which I think that's happened a couple of times now to him this year. So that's he's already locked in, but still that's kind of concerning there for that group there. So it was I guess pretty interesting racing, seeing that play out. But then I think a lot of these underdog guys that we don't normally see run up front or run for top 10s, they end up getting the win or getting a good finish there. So pretty good day for a lot of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think for Connor Zilic, it just shows how quick of a learner he is and how good the equipment is. Lindley being a crew chief is huge as well. I think, right? Or is he Marty Lindley, I think, is a crew chief for Carson Kvapil. Or maybe I have to check. Okay, now I'm curious. And Carson Kvapil, oh no, Andrew Overstreet, so it is Marty Lindley. Pullman, Phil Bell. It is Marty Lindley. So, Connor Zilic going out there getting that result. You have the Dean Thompson, Nick Sanchez. You brought up Josh Williams. It shows it's one of the longer races of the year, and it opens itself up to having opportunities like this. Even though there really wasn't that much action for the lead, really 3 guys led the whole entire race. It was relatively competitive in terms. 21 cars are on the lead lap, so it's an opportunity there, and we'll see how it goes at Nashville. It's a difficult track with the concrete and stuff, so, and not a lot of banking, so we'll see how that all goes moving forward. The points right now, Austin Hill has the most playoff points. Allgaier leads the point standings by 72 over Hill. Mayer is 3rd. Jesse Love is 4th, minus 119. Then Buckshot Jones, Connor Zilic, who has a waiver, Ryan C., Carson Kvapil, Jeb Burton, Sheldon Creed, Harrison Burton are your cutoff drivers there. Creed plus 13, Harrison Burton plus 3, over Nick Sanchez, Taylor Graves minus 20, Daniel Dye minus 24, Dean Thompson minus 42. So that's the drivers that are in the mix there. Oh wow, Daniel Suarez is actually going to be in the Xfinity race at Mexico City. Okay. number 9 Quaker State car. Added to the entry blank. What is it? International provisionals. Add 2 additional entries. Yeah. So basically, they're doing promoters options to try and get a couple of additional Mexican drivers or into the race there in a couple of weeks. The Beast Infield Block Party. Okay, Infield Block Party. Unleash 8 bands of comedy, sure. Yeah. Monster Brewing Bee. Okay. So then the Beast Party. Then, let's go and move to the trucks, which there's 32, so short field, of course, the North Carolina Education Lottery, 200, these Corey Heim win both stages, lead the most laps, essentially, and then get the fastest lap, so maximum, maximum points there for him. Corey Heim over Chastain, Caden Honeycutt, Lane Riggs, Kyle Busch, Enfinger, Mills, Hemrick, Caruth, and Brandon Jones. Jake RC just outside of the top 10. Eric Lickerman was 14. The Truck Series race, there wasn't really a whole lot that went on. There was a 2-stage race. There was one big incident after stage 2, and then otherwise there really nothing happened. Chandler Smith got knocked out in that wreck then you had 98 is Ty Majeski, and then the other 2 trucks that were involved were the 17 and the 81. That's Gio Ruggiero, who qualified on pole, and Connor Mozak, who started 15th. But other than that, what else can it, like we were talking about domination with Alex Palou, there's similarities to that with what Corey Heim's doing. And I think, honestly, we're just getting closer to that eventual announcement. Of course, if they're able to get approval to get a 4th charter, I figure that's where Corey Heim will be next year. But he's running at a different level than everybody else in the Truck Series.
Yeah, he's running at a different level. Corey Heim, I think the only thing he can do other than just dominate is just lap the whole field and win that way. That's probably the only way that he can continue to be more dominant, is just to win and overlap the field. So it's not really anything else that he can do. Maybe he needs to do the same thing and take a 5-week vacation and let the Truck Series catch back up to him. But he's continuing to show why he probably will be if they ever do get a 4th charter for 2311 racing. So they could definitely show the opportunity for that. So I'm looking forward to hearing whenever that happens there. But otherwise, it just continues to be the Corey Heim show in the Truck Series. It's Corey Heim's world, and we're just living in it. So got that there. Ross Chastain finishing 2nd. So interesting. He's always able to just show up in a Al Nice truck and just run well in the Truck Series there. But on the other hand, guys like Kyle Busch, who we thought were automatic in the Truck Series, but not so much anymore these days. So he's able to still go in and run, and everything. He didn't even lead a single lap in this, which is surprising considering how Kyle Busch has been in the Truck Series over the years. But no, it doesn't go out and do that. But at the same time, guys like Lane Riggs continue to get top 10s, top 5s. So recovering after last week's altercation with his teammate, or not with his teammate, but with Corey Heim there. Got it there. Raja Karuth, top 10 finish for him, led 10 laps. Pretty interesting there. But and then I guess the other thing I found surprising, Giovanni Ruggiero started on pole there in 17 car, but ends up being 2 laps down there. So, clearly had issues there, and wasn't in contention. But yeah, I mean, Corey Heim, there's nothing else he can do. I mean, it's just a matter of time before he's in the Cup Series, assuming that 2311 does get that 4th charter.
As it looks like Carl Anthony Towns just suffered a injury there, so, well, it's not like the Knicks are in a position to win the game, and then if they lose him, then you can forget it. I mean, Corey Heim, it's a case of, we've said it for a while this season, it's all about what he does in the playoff. That's really all that's left for him. He has to go and close. He hasn't proven to be able to do that. So can he do it now? That's the question. 4 wins for him this year, 8 stage wins, 17 playoff point lead. He has a 100-point lead after 11 races. And so over Chandler Smith, and 110 points on Daniel Hemrick, 129 Ankrum, 140 on Grant Enfinger. The top 4, they're the ones that have won races. So that he does not look good. He hyperextended something. He hyperextended his left knee. That's what it looks like. But he's limping now, and he's actually trying to go and play. He's trying to Willis Reed this thing to go and finish out the game. The last 2:11 of the game. He does not look good at all. They should be putting in what's his name, the other center, because they're not going to get anything out of Cat because he's not going to be able to move. Miss. Yeah, that's out of bounds on Indiana. So I mean, the points right now, Stuball is +7 over Gio Ruggiero. Ben Rhodes is -10, Raja Karuth -17. Those are the guys that are in the mix. Tanner Gray's 38 back, Crafton 53 back. All right, so let us move on to the roundup. Trying to make it sporty here. Now you got him limping too now. OG Austin Green gets the win. Yeah, she's good looking broad. Austin Green gets the win in the General Tire 150. What is it? Will Kimmel was actually on pole and led the first 12 laps and then blew up. So he had gotten a rocket motor or something to put himself in a position to. And then you had, I think that's Butterbean Queen was up there too. So, and he hit the fence early. Grant Enfinger was in this race. There's a few people out there. So Green gets the victory over Enfinger, LeVar Scott, Sawalich, Andy Jankowiak, your top 5. Andrew Patterson was the last car on the lead lap. Moffitt, Staropoli, Cletus McFarland, and Laney Bice was your top 10. Lawless Allen, who's running for points, 13th. And Brendan Queen, 14th. I'm going to see if any of those other ones. Cole Raz had issues. Brayton Laster in the 06. Tim Richmond, he had Tim Richmond was 22nd. Spencer Gallagher, Isabella Robusto were taken out in that incident, that restart incident. Will Kimmel blew up. And Jason Gitzmiller DNS. Okay, so that Austin Green gets the victory. Top 10 for Garrett Mitchell, aka Cletus McFarland, after he wrecked, spun his tires, wrecked Gallagher, wrecked Isabella Robusto, and then turned left right into the right rear corner of Robusto. So credit to Austin Green, his dad, of course, David Green, the former Busch Series champion and now NASCAR official. So we'll go to MotoGP, raced in the British Grand Prix. Marco Bezzecchi gets the win after Fabio Quartararo had a mechanical problem while leading and was probably getting away. So that was fortunate for him and Yamaha. It would have been a huge result for them. Instead, Marco Bezzecchi gets the win for Aprilia over Johan Zarco coming off of his French Grand Prix victory. Marc Marquez just slightly out of Franco Morbidelli. Alex Marquez, so that was 3 through 5. Pedro Acosta, best of the KTMs, in 6th. Jack Miller, best Yamaha, in 7th. Luca Marini for Honda. Aldeguer and Fabio Di Gianantonio running out your top 5 or top 10. To go through. Yeah, the Knicks are about to go down 3-1. So it's going to be Indiana and Oklahoma City in the NBA Finals. Lovely. Since exactly nobody wants to see that. Yeah, so that's the results there. The standings heading into next race. Marc Marquez 24 points out of Alex Marquez. That's really the battle for the championship at this point. Pecco Bagnaia is 72 points back. Franco Morbidelli minus 98. Johan Zarco minus 99. Fabio Di Gianantonio is minus 108 in 6th. Bezzecchi with his win moves all the way up to 7th. Quartararo had fallen out of the race while leading, falls to 8th. Pedro Acosta and Felipe Aldeguer. So there's actually a nice battle between 7th through 10th in the points for MotoGP. Go through not triple-double for Halliburton. You get through Moto 2. And I agree on this one. The results from Moto 2, Senegas, Morera, Alonso, Canet, Guevara, Celestino Vietti. Joe Roberts actually finished 8th ahead of his teammate. Then the Gonzalez has a 3-point lead on Aaron Canet. Jake Dixon's minus 29, Baltas minus 38, Morera minus 41 in 5th, Agus minus 47 after his win, Celestino Vietti, Ramirez, Alonso Lopez, and Albert Arenas. And then, alright, so I went through those. Go through Formula E. There's been a Oliver Rowland benefit this year. Oliver Rowland's been dominant. Has coming off of a win in a 2nd place in Japan. The previous round at Monaco was a win in a 2nd place there too. So he has 16 and 78 point or 77 point lead. Is that? Curious. 77 point lead heading into the doubleheader this weekend over Pascal Wehrlein. Antonio Felix da Costa's 3rd, Taylor Barnard 4th, and Jake Dennis the top 5. Move to IMSA at Detroit. Details. Reveal time. Detroit Grand Prix. Is that Ali LaForce? Yeah, looks like it. Platinum blonde hair, huh? Halliburton, yeah. So so GTP and GTD Pro, so 22 cars, 11 in each class. You have 2 Acuras, 2 factory Porsches, along with the JDC Miller car, the 2 Cadillacs from Wayne Taylor Racing, along with the Whelen Engineering Cadillac, and BMW Team ALL, their 2 cars, and the Aston Martin team. And GTD Pro, you have BMW from Paul Miller, 2 BMWs from Paul Miller, the Corvettes from Pratt Miller, Lamborghini from Pfaff, 2 Lexus cars for Vassar Sullivan, and the 2 Ford Mustangs, the AO Racing Porsche, and then the Dragon Speed Ferrari there. So, and then in Indy Next has been a Dennis Hauger going, and he actually, even though he's led so many laps, Lockie Hughes, his teammate, is actually only 15 points behind him. That's because of the extra top 5. Miles Rowan 3rd, Caio Collet 4th, Salvador D'Alba 5th, Pearson, Skeets, Callum Hedge, Jordan Missick, Everugas, Papa Savas in the top 10. And Bryce Aaron was 15th, okay. And then all these HMD cars. Yeah, Flourish, and Davey Hamilton. Gonna run the ovals. Then you have Juan Manuel Correa. So there's that. And then F2 and F3 at Monaco. We'll start with F2. Jack Crawford, okay. Luke Browning leads the points over Alex Dunn, Luca Fornaroli, Richard Vachor, Jack Crawford, top 5. You have Lindblad, Marty, Martins, Beganovic, and Gabriel Mini, Sebastian Montoya, Kushmini, the MX Easterson, one of the only 3 drivers that hasn't scored a point. The results. Yeah, and the sprint race, Kushmini actually won, and then feature race was Jack Crawford. So, yeah, big deal there. Jack Crawford was a sprint race winner at Imola, so got some momentum going there to see what's going on there. The teammates, their teammates there. So the sprint race, lights in for Monaco victory. Not the first Indian driver to win at Monaco, of course. Karun Chandok has as well. Kushmini, Gabriele Mini, Luke Browning, Jack Crawford, Richard Vachor, Montoya, Forderoli, Lindblad, Dunn, and then in the feature, Jack Crawford, Luca Fornaroli, Sebastian Montoya, Browning, Lindblad, and Kushmini, Roman Stanek, Cordial, Villagomez, and Gotha. In F3, Kamara leads by 13 over Tramnitz, Soloff, Stromstead, Tappinen, top 5, Voisin, Belinsky, Ramos, and Stenjur Boya, your top 10. And, so let us move to Spanish Grand Prix. Next to last time they'll be at Catalunya, because 26th they're going to have Madrid, street course, and move towards that race or the foreseeable future. Let's see the picks. So, Josh, you picked first for last week, so I'll I was really the only one. I actually picked Pato on his exact spot. You were closer. You definitely did better picks than me. You picked Corey Hyde as well. I actually picked Norris. I didn't have it in the right order, but I had the top 3 in the F1. So I will go with the momentum, and I'll say that Piastri or Norris goes and gets another win, and we'll say Fish Lips and then Piastri. So, F1 Spanish Grand Prix. Phil says Norris, Fishlips, Piastri, wild card pick. For me, I mean, I don't even know if we what is considered a wild card? Anybody outside the top 10 in points? How do we determine a wild card there?
Yeah, anybody.
Then I'll pick Carlos Sainz. Why not?
Yeah.
There you go. So the smooth operator wild card. How about you, Josh?
Yeah, well, I guess I'm going to go Piastri returning to his winning ways. Lando finished his second. Charles Leclerc finished his third. And then I guess if you're doing a wild card this week, then I'll do one. If you're going to pick smooth operator, I'll just pick old man Fernando Alonso. So,
yeah,
why not?
To try and go and actually get his first points of 2025, no less.
Yeah.
In the process. And IndyCar, Detroit Grand Prix, this weekend, trying to get into the Detroit Grand Prix. Last year, Scott Dixon was the winner. He's highlights a nice spotter guy. They don't have that. So IndyCar, Detroit Grand Prix. They don't have a list of the drivers, but it's the usual suspects. So Josh, let us know what your winner pick is, or your podium, and then your wild card selection.
Yeah, Alex Palou. I mean, it's no wonder for him. Podium, Pato Award and Christian Lundgaard. Yeah, there, and then wild card. I don't know. I guess Connor Daly is a wild card on ovals, or not ovals. I mean, no, he's not a wild card on ovals, but he is a wild card on road courses. So yeah, we'll go with him.
All right, yeah, and I'll go and swap them around. I'll say Pato Award gets his first win of 2025, then Palou second and third. I think will involve the Palou, and I'm trying to think who's standings. McLaughlin, Colnerda, Lucas. Yeah, so I'm gonna go with I'll go with Rosenquist. And then the wild card, current points, he got 26, 27. So my wild card will be, you pick Connor Daly. I will choose this 14. I'm gonna pick I'll go with Ericsson because he'll be pissed about getting DQ'd. So
yeah,
and he's good at street courses. So all right, so now we'll go to NASCAR Tripleheader at Nashville. Trucks are up first. Truck Series, and Phil will go with Corey Heim because same as with Alex Palou. And then wild card in the Truck Series is Rackley Roofing 200, 32. So they actually have a fullish field. Can't remember the win, Corey Heim to win, and then trying to get the point standings of all the drivers. That's 21, 23 drivers. So you got 12 there. So and I'll go, and instead of picking Raja, even though he's eligible, I'm gonna go with Andres Perez de Lara as my choice for and Andres Perez de Lara wild card. How about you, Josh?
Yeah, I think I'll go with no, you already picked Corey Day, or not Corey Day, but Corey Heim. I'll go with Lane Riggs win this weekend, so I'll pick Lane Riggs. And wild card, we'll just go with Corey Day here in the 7 truck.
Okay, so then the Xfinity Series, we'll race this weekend in the Tennessee Lottery 250. 2 cars will miss the show. You have 40 for 38. Josh, you get first dibs on this.
For me, I guess, I'll pick Justin Allgaier to win here. So got him there. And then wild card, I don't know, it's a little harder. Wild card, Josh Williams, I guess, to see if he can keep the momentum up from last week. So, yeah.
Interest, solid enough picks there. Of course, Justin Allgaier, you never can go wrong with him. I'm gonna pick Sam Mayer to win. He's been up there for a good amount of the year, so I think he's due. And then you have Chastain. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna swap around. I'm gonna do Chastain to win. Or no, actually no. I'll leave Sam Mayer to win, and then my wild card will be wild card will be why not? I'll just pick Jeffrey Earnhardt. Cup Series was the Cracker Barrel 400. I was talking about Ross Chastain. I'm picking him to win. Trying to think of who's where. Cup Series, Cracker Barrel 400. Cup Series, the Cracker Barrel 400. 39 for 40, so nobody's going home. You have the number 67 Corey Heim this weekend for 2311. Fincham Garage 66. So Ross Chastain said to win, and then my wild card based points, you have 13 all the way out to 36th. Oh, that leaves. I'll say John Hunter Nemechek after his run last week at the 600, but not being able to pay it off. Josh, you get the last word here before we move on to the sim segment. Or not sim segment, yeah, the sim segment.
Yeah, I think I'll go with, guess, I'm trying to think who I'd be able to go with, you know what? I will pick Denny Hamlin to win here at Nashville there. So that's who I'll go with. And then wild card, Carson Hocevar had a good run at the 600, so should have went and had a better run. So this weekend we'll see. But those are my picks there. So, we'll get into sim segment real quick, of course. Pull up iRacing this week. What's on there? This week, quick. Upcoming races. Yeah, Cup at Nashville, Xfinity at Nashville. Trucks at Nashville, IndyCar Oval, Fixed Series at Auto Club. Good race there. NASCAR Gen 4 at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So look at that there. ARCA Menards at Bristol, 87 cars at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So NASCAR on iRacing doing some Indy racing here this week, of course. So I think those are probably end up focusing on there, but going to road course racing, going on to the road course racing portion of it here. Sports cars at Ferrari GT3 at Rodskogen Motor Center, GT3 Fixed at Monza Grand Prix Circuit, Toyota GR86, Caldwell Park. Let's see. Prototype Challenge to Detroit Belle Hill Circuit. Got Legends Cup at Okayama International Circuit. MX5 Cup at Circuit Navarra. Got that iRacing Porsche Cup at Watkins Glen International, 23 laps. Got let's see what else there. Class B. I guess that's all the ones that I have that I can participate in there. But yeah, open, fixed, and open. So yeah, I think that's GT Sprint at Monza there. Advanced MX5 Cup at Spa, got that there. Ford Mustang Challenge at Homestead Road Course, I think. Formula 4 Tsukuba Circuit. Formula B Watkins Glen there. Formula 1600 Landmark Park. Got IndyCar at Detroit Belle Isle. Formula 1600 at Landmark Park. Skip Barber at Charlotte Roval. You got Okayama Circuit Formula 4 on the Asia Pacific Tour, Formula 4 at WeatherTech Raceway, and then Formula 4 at Redskigen Motor Center for the Esports Regional Tour for America, Europe, and Asia Pacific. Got, let's see what else. Formula A at Formula A at Circuit Barcelona, Catalunya. So the Formula 1 circuit there. I guess what else? Got, if we're going to go into dirt racing, dirt cars at Lanier, micro non-wing sprint car at Lima Land, dirt car pro late model Port Royal, dirt car 358 modifieds at Knoxville. You got a bunch of other dirt racer World of Outlaws at Oswego Speedway. So yeah, there's plenty of things on iRacing to go look at here. I guess news, iRacing news real quick. Special event 4 hours at Thruxton this week. This week in iRacing, 4 hours Thruxton. iRacing IndyCars at the iRacing IndyCar Series at Detroit Grand Prix Belle Isle Grand Prix Tour at the historic, Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya. Got that there. Prodigy Racing Cup at Laguna Seca. Let's see if there are any updates. No updates. Yes, interesting here. A community event. Yes to Motorsport Great Lakes 100 there. So, off-road racing on May 29th. 100 minutes of multi-class iRacing action at Bark River with Pro 4, Pro 2 Subaru Beetle Light. Interesting there. I've never really done off-road racing with iRacing, but maybe that might be a thing to look at this weekend. I already talked about the iRacing development log from last week. So that's basically it for iRacing this week. Good luck to you, Phil, on your Enduro tomorrow, and we'll see how that goes for you. Definitely keep us posted on that for your side on that. But as always, Twitch TV at iRacing or at UCW2. Of course, my JP Huffine Twitter, and then our Gripster Podcast YouTube page. Subscribe there. So, of course, glad to have gone the Indianapolis 500 and see the town or city of Indianapolis, and do all that, and see the Weenie 500 and all that stuff. So, great time over there, celebrating greatest race in the world, of course, and then back into it later this week with more racing. So, of course, glad to be able to have done that, and hopefully be able to someday return to that one. We'll see how that goes.
Looking to do that myself one day. And of course, same on your end in terms of your exploits on iRacing. I figure the 87s are calling your name, so looking forward to that. You can find being the Gripster Podcast YouTube page, of course, with the video feed. Josh handles that. GSP 1428 is the audio feed. That's a personal YouTube page there. Twitter, PG Matthew 28, Instagram, Blue Sky PGM GSP 28. Of course, you can find the Gripster Podcast on Podbean and also philipgmatthew.com. Just renewed that. I'm getting some marketing, whatever. So, with that, that is it for the Greatest Day in Motorsports episode. Next week, we will review NASCAR at Nashville, IndyCar at Detroit, the Spanish Grand Prix, and everything else going on in the world of motorsports and sports we'll talk about here on the Gripster Podcast. So for Josh, I'm Phil. Thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting. And we'll see you next time.